G'day legends, I hope you've all had a fantastic weekend. It is time for another installment of Monday Q&A. As always, if you'd like me to answer one of your questions on next week's video, simply put it in the comments section below. Hopefully I'll get to see some of you on Friday at Glamfest in Melbourne. Ragdoll are also playing on Rottnest Island on Sunday as well. So I've got a pretty big week of gigs. I'll also be sitting in on Saturday for a pair of shows for Bernie Dieter's Club Cabaret at Fringe World in Perth. So I've got my work cut out for me this week. Let's get straight into this week's questions. Let's start by answering life's most important question. What do I do as a hair care routine? I have answered this one a few times before on different videos, but basically, on average, I think I wash my hair once a week. I'll do that more if I'm swimming and going to the beach, but double shampoo, got to do the double shampoo, and then a high quality conditioner. I will sometimes use a leave-in conditioner if you're inclined. Friend of the channel, Mr. Troy Nababan, and The Gear podcast co-host, likes a bit of Moroccan oil in his hair, and he's got pretty gorgeous hair as well. Obviously, having a nutritious diet and plenty of sleep contributes to your health in general in non-negligible ways. So other than that, I don't really do too much to it. I'm just very fortunate. I have spoken about the fact that I like to use the Elixir coated strings on most of my main guitars. Do I find that the coating impacts fret wear? I could not answer that either way because I haven't really done any tests. Doing a fret wear test over long periods of time would be something that I'd be interested in. I'd love to know if different materials, if different winding or wrap styles and the difference between coated and non-coated strings really makes a difference on a given fret material. But I found most of my guitars exhibit pretty normal fret wear over time. So whether that is dependent on the fact that I'm just using the same strings across most of them, or if it's because fret wear is or isn't an issue, I don't know. I'm not sure of anyone who has really done any tests with that. Jim Lil, it is time to step up to the plate and do one of your deep dive videos on fret wear, please and thank you. I did have a question about the lens that I'm using on my camera to make YouTube videos. I'm using a Canon EOS M50 and I have the 22mm kit lens. It was relatively inexpensive. I think it cost me about 200 Australian dollars. I love the way it looks. I've just got the camera mounted on one of those gorilla stands on my desk, and it's pretty much set and forget. One of the ways I'm able to make as much content as I do is having a very streamlined setup where my camera is pretty much always in the same place. I've got this boom arm with a microphone on it, and I've got my rack over here that has my Axe effects and my switchblade, as well as my Universal Audio Apollo interface. So I can basically record anything I like at any time in any way, and it's all super easy. I put up a video over the weekend playing Led Zeppelin's The Rain Song on a Maton 12-string acoustic that I've been lucky enough to acquire from a family friend. Absolutely gorgeous playing and sounding instrument, probably the easiest 12-string to play that I've ever encountered in my life. But I was asked about the tuning on that one. For that video, I was using Open C Sus2. So from low to high, you've got C, G, C, G, C, and then a D. It's essentially open C tuning, but instead of having the highest string or highest strings on a 12-string tuned to E, I've got them tuned to D. I'm fairly confident that that's what Page actually used on that song, even though most of the transcriptions that I see have it as having a low D on there. So you'd have D, G, C, G, C, D. But that's like 51% versus 49% confidence on there that I'm talking about that. To me, I like playing it in that open C sus tuning. And that's actually a tuning that I use a lot when we do ragdoll acoustic shows, because I can have those top three strings just droning away and I can play either one finger power chords or sus2 chords on the low strings with the drones, and it kind of ties it all together. Check out the acoustic rendition we did of Shine if you want to hear that. More of an amp in the room feel out of your modeler setup. I've said this before and I will say it again. The best way to do that is to use a power amp and a guitar cabinet. That will sound like an amp in a room because it is an amp in a room. If you don't have that luxury though, adding a room style reverb with plenty of early reflections can help. You can also take a look at using some reflection-free far field IRs as well. There are some excellent free ones out there that Jay Mitchell has shared in the past. Again, you're playing through studio monitors or an FRFR. It is a physical limitation of the system that it's not going to sound like a 2x12, 1x12, or 4x12 cabinet with guitar speakers in it. But if you just want to take that edge off, I do like that little bit of room reverb in there. It's a classic old trick that people have been using to add space for a long time. You can try a little slapback delay as well. You can even try some kind of stereo widening techniques like using some pitch detune. Or what I like to do is all of those things in massive amounts, just grease up your preset, and rather than try to make it sound like an amp in a room, which it's never really going to do, just lean into the strengths of a modeling system, which are that you can create artificial ambience that is awesome in its own right. Beef, chicken, or pork? I'll take all of the above, please. I think if I could only eat one of those for the rest of my life, I'll actually probably go mad from boredom in there, but if I had to live without some form of animal flesh, I would probably bypass all of those and just become a pescatarian, to be honest. One of my friends who's a fantastic drummer in a band that I do some gigs with is a pescatarian, and we went to his birthday party a couple of weeks ago, and far out, the seafood that was served up there was amazing. It's one of those things where if you are somebody who does eat meat, I think you'd find yourself going, well, I don't really need to eat kind of land mammal or birds or anything like that. I can just live off the beef of the sea, as we like to call it around these parts. No one actually calls it the beef of the sea. I'm just making that up. But yeah, if I had to choose one of those three, I'd probably just go over to fish. Do I have any advice for dialing in lots of sustain for legato style presets on a unit like the Axe-Fx? If you're going to be playing legato, the important thing is that you have your chops together. That is by far the most important aspects of that entire style on there. If you go and watch great legato players, so much of that sound does come from not just their touch, but also the way they are able to control the strings they're not playing on the guitar. So having not just a good right-hand muting technique, but a good left-hand muting technique, often playing with quite a soft touch and using lots and lots of gain. With lots and lots of gain comes lots and lots of chances for extra noise, which is why you need that control in there. And also go a little easier on any gates in your signal chain, because they can choke off the decay of notes on there. Great practice if you're on an Axe-Fx is just disable the gate, crank up the gain, and you can even back off your volume and tone controls on your guitar just that little bit to clean it up, and then just really work on the technical aspect of it. It's a cliche, go practice. That's the most important part of getting a particular style right. But with legato in particular, it really does come down to those things. And it takes a long time to learn. Legato's been one thing that I've been working on really consistently over the last couple of years. And I feel like I get a tiny amount better every single year, but it's not like massive, massive improvements like I might expect if I was really practicing my alternate picking every single day or something like that. So yeah, there was a Tom Quayle video out there where he was saying, you know, play with lots of gain, which I definitely approve of. Last one for this week, my thoughts on guitar synthesizers and would I consider adding one to my setup. I have demoed a few hardware guitar synthesizers as well as some software ones on here. I think if you're going to go down the guitar synth route, a GK style pickup is pretty much essential, whether you're using a Roland GK pickup or you're using something like the Psych-Fi or the Fishman triple play. I've demoed the triple play on here, as well as the Boss SY1000 and the GM800. I think if you're really into crafting your own sounds, the SY1000 is pretty cool. If you just want to make like saxophone and trumpet noises out of a Marshall stack, the GM800 is probably the way to go. The type of synth sounds that I really like and enjoy, I find are just a lot more accessible on a keyboard powered synthesizer, which is why I bought an ASM Hydra synth a few years ago. I love that thing. I am a terrible, terrible keys player, but anytime I plug it in, it gives me so much satisfaction. And having that type of keyboard interface makes a lot more sense when playing around with those sounds than using a guitar does on there. I think I've just consigned myself to the fact that, you know, I want an electric guitar to make electric guitar noises, and I want a synthesizer with a keyboard attached to it when I want to play those sounds. But having said that, the GM800 does work really, really well to drive the Hydra synth. Go and check out the video that I did with it because I demonstrate some of those sounds. That is it for this week's video. Thank you all so much for tuning in. As I said earlier, hopefully I'll get to see some of you over the weekend at one of the gigs that I'm playing. Stay safe, be excellent to one another, and if you've got a question for next week, put it in the comment section below. Take it easy, and I'll see you next time.